Yeah, I know, it's not the normal day we'd be putting out a video, but I've been putting off talking about this, and there's not a good upcoming Sunday slot to put this in, and they just released voice cast info, and it's high time we talked about Justice League versus the Fatal Five. Here's our inciting question. Could this new Fatal Five movie be in DCAU Continuity? You know, Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, Batman Beyond, and the other ones. In early 2017, we got our first look at the then upcoming Batman and Harley Quinn movie via a thumbnail image for the movie's sneak peek special feature on the iTunes listing for Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. This lone screenshot was all we had to speculate on for quite some time, and it was obvious just by looking at the thing that this movie was going to be a return to the DC animated universe, or at the very least, was going to be drawn in the same Bruce Timm art style. Now it's over a year later, and we know for sure this movie is canon to the DCAU, but that didn't stop us and many others from tossing around mountains of speculation during the months leading up to its release. And now it's time to do it again! Back in July of last year at the San Diego Comic-Con, it was announced that a new animated DC movie would be released in 2019, that's this year, titled Justice League vs. the Fatal Five. Soon after, we got this promo image showing temporary poster art for the movie, and that was it, for a while. Most people assumed this was going to be another in the line of New 52-ish Phil Barassa-style Justice League animated films. After all, simultaneously, it was announced that we'd be getting a Batman Hush movie and a Wonder Woman Bloodlines movie in 2019 as well, and with the Reign of the Supermen sequel feature arriving first, and assuredly being part of the New 52-verse, it seemed like a no-brainer that Hush would be the odd one out and presented out of continuity as a standalone film. Fans have been clamoring for years for Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill to return to their iconic roles as Batman and the Joker, respectively, for a Hush movie, and the two actors had always seemed genuinely interested as well. But now we get news that supposedly the Hush movie will feature the voice cast we've come to familiarize with the New 52-esque... Jesus, will someone please come up with an official name for this continuity? I'll give it a shot. The War-iverse. Because it started with Justice League War. No, okay. The DC Animated Movie Universe, DCAMU, DCAMU. Is that okay? That won't get confusing at all. Anyway, we now pretty much know Hush will be in the DCAMU as well. Historically, for the last few years, we've been getting 3 animated DC movies annually, 2 of which have been set in this movie universe and 1 of which is a standalone title. Last year it was Suicide Squad Hell to Pay and Death of Superman with a side of Batman Gotham by Gaslight. The year before, it was Justice League Dark and the Judas Contract with a healthy dose of family movie night classic Batman and Harley Quinn. Or how about 2016's Batman Bad Blood and Justice League vs. Teen Titans, plus everybody's favorite The Killing Joke. You see what I mean? But this year, 2019, I guess is different for whatever reason. We've got 4 upcoming animated DC movies. Did they get like a budget increase or something? Reign of the Supermen, Hush, Bloodlines, and of course, Justice League vs. the Fatal Five. With 2 of them now more or less confirmed to be in the same universe, what about the other 2? Well, let's finally get around to talking about these preview images for Fatal Five and see if we can't straighten things out a bit. December 2018 rolled around and we got an actual look at the Fatal Five from this movie, and surprisingly, they look, well, pretty dang close to how they looked in Justice League Unlimited. Sure, some of their costumes are different, but many characters in the DCAU, not to be confused with the DCAMU, have changed costumes over time, like Kyle Rayner, Supergirl, Batgirl, Batman maybe. Saturn Girl in this screenshot looks pretty different. Similar facial features, but different hair and very different costume. But again, who's to say? Jessica Cruz is a post-New 52 character, but there's no reason she couldn't be brought into the DCAU, perhaps replacing Jon Stewart for some reason, and she certainly looks the part. Look at Validus here. Holy hell if he doesn't look almost exactly like he did in JLU. But the Bruce Timm looking art style is just the tip of the iceberg. Fans have been overloading Twitter's internal servers with hashtag JLReunion for what feels like forever. Even some of the voice cast members have expressed their interest in a movie reuniting the original 7. And now, in January, we come to find out that Kevin Conroy, George Newbern, and Susan Eisenberg will be reprising their roles as the DCAU Trinity. Or at least the Trinity in some Bruce Timm form. So could this movie be the perfect way to launch a JL reunion? Think about it. The DC animated universe is such a vast, cataloged universe at this point that anyone creating new content intended to reside within it has had to walk on eggshells to not upset the fandom's nerdiest of nerds. You know, like us. Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles adventures strayed away from interrupting previously established continuity by hopping dimensions. Batman and Harley Quinn took place between seasons of JLU and followed an inconsequential, wacky side story, even if they did goof up Nightwing's hair. Now, Justice League vs. Fatal 5 may take us to the far future of the DCAU, out of the way of disturbing anything in the present-day timeline of the shows. It's the perfect solution, telling stories that don't upset the Foundation. And it's not absurd at all for the DCAU Justice League to find themselves on this time-traveling adventure, as this was actually the entire plot pitch for another season of JLU had one been greenlit. In August 2006, DCAU producer James Tucker spoke about ideas for the future of Justice League Unlimited in Toy Fair magazine. We had talked just briefly about doing 12 more episodes. We had an idea of doing something that would be a season-long journey through time. It would give us a chance to revisit a bunch of DC heroes from different periods. We'd go to the far future and see the Atomic Knights, have an adventure with Enemy Ace during World War I, or do something again in the Old West. And there was also talk of possibly doing a whole season taking place in the Batman Beyond universe. Hold up, that last part sounds awesome as shit. Dwayne McDuffie even added on to this in 2010 on the Lamppost forums. James Tucker had a pretty strong idea where he wanted to go if we continued, and I planted the seeds of his proposed season in Alive. Alive, of course, being the penultimate, that means second to last, episode of JLU, acting as part one of the two-part series finale. And James Tucker brought this up again even as recently as October of last year. Unlike The Simpsons, most shows can't go on indefinitely. We discussed doing an arc where the League went on a galaxy quest of some sort, but the show didn't get renewed. Bruce Timm started up the direct-to-video movies, and I started Legion of Superheroes. The Legion of Superheroes cartoon ran from 2006 to 2008, just after the wrap-up of JLU. And while it wasn't part of the DC animated universe, these new designs don't look like they match that art style either. So with all of this in mind, it's not ridiculous to think that if a JL reunion were to happen, that it could follow this old train of thought the DCAU producers never got to officially act on. We can assume the seeds planted in Alive have to do with something cosmic, something to do with deep space, and the fact that time hopping was theoretically going to be involved in a JLU Season 4 leads to a Legion of Superheroes era adventure being completely possible, if not likely. In fact, there were long rumors that JLU's final season episode Far From Home, which features the Legion of Superheroes, acted as sort of a backdoor pilot for the Legion cartoon before the decision was made to not have it be part of the DCAU. However, James Tucker dispelled these rumors in an April 2008 interview with The World's Finest, stating, "Let's get the myths out of the way. The Legion series was never tied to the Justice League Unlimited episode. Supergirl was never ever going to be in the Legion. The true origin of the series came out of Cartoon Network's desire to have a Superman-centric series to premiere when the movie Superman Returns premiered. That's the reality." So, maybe we'll see the DCAU Justice League in this new movie, maybe we won't. Some closing thoughts. Is this promo image showing the Watchtower on the moon? Or is this something from the Fatal Five's time period? Does the fact the movie includes blood, adult language, and partial nudity automatically kick it out of potential DCAU-iness? What about the report that Miss Martian will be in the movie? Or that a handful of previously seen DCAU characters like Mr. Terrific and Brainiac 5 will be back with new voice actors? Starboy's even in this and looks rather Kingdom Come-ish or Bronze Age-y, I don't know, rather than how we saw him in Adventures in the DCU a couple decades back. And since we haven't seen what the Trinity looks like here yet, perhaps this movie will simply be in Timm's art style, but not DCAU canon like Superman Doomsday or Justice League Gods and Monsters or Brainiac Attacks. But what do you think? Do you expect Justice League vs. the Fatal Five to be the JL reunion we've been asking for, or is there too much mud in the water to really tell right now? Are we completely overthinking this as usual? I mean, Bruce Timm did randomly show up on the forum formerly known as Toon Zone for the first time in years just to comment on the Fatal Five thread. Let us know your personal speculation in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more upcoming DCAU content from the Watchtower Database.
Do you have any other upcoming projects of yours that you can tell us about that you're working on right now?
Actually, there's quite a few things that are coming up. A couple of things I can talk about, other things I can't. There's a really big thing coming up, you guys, and I can't talk about it, and you will love it. It's very exciting.